My name is Brenda, and I'm like 34 years working for the city at San Francisco General Hospital. And over those years, one of the things that always bothered me was, and I'm known for that, is when I see somebody being mistreated at the workplace, that's just unacceptable. And it's starting to happen too much, and it's kind of almost out of control right now. I mean, you have people discriminating against people, you have people mobbing, new employees, and there's really no mechanism that an employee has to fight this. You can complain about discrimination, but it's very difficult to prove, the standard that they want you to do, which is a Supreme Court standard. It's very difficult to prove it. And mobbing, if you have a manager and you walk into a place and that manager likes all of their current employees, and you're the new person walking in, because I've seen this happen. A brand new person walks in. From day one, that group decided they wanted her out. And you see that happening, and at the hospital I see it happening over and over and over again. And so I started a campaign to try to stop it. So my thing is I just stopped not speaking up about it. And I try to encourage other people to speak up about it. And I try to educate people that you don't have to accept that kind of behavior, that you need to do something about it. Your job has a responsibility to protect you when you're at work. But so this bargaining, I took the bill that was in Massachusetts and I just gave it to the city and said we want it here. Gave them the whole bill. So they rejected that. So then we reduced it down to the basic principles of it. They rejected that. And their explanation for rejecting it was, well, we don't want to give people rights they don't have. So that was they made it very clear that the city does not believe that we have a right not to be bullied and harassed in the workplace. They do not believe that we have that right. So in the end, we had a lot of back and forth, and it was very contentious, and it got almost up to the end right before we went to arbitration, but I guess I made a good enough case. So what we did get them to do was to say that they would have to, and with the committee that we participate in, create workplace bullying training for all the workers. And so they agreed to do that. So there's bullying and cultural sensitivity. So those are the two issues that we're going to do. So the thing is that's the foot in the door, that at least they acknowledge that there's a problem. We got them to acknowledge that there is an issue that they need to deal with. So the next step would be following through and making sure that they do what they said they're going to do, and making sure that the union and the workers work together to make sure that it doesn't fall through the cracks anymore. Now, I've had rallies out at the hospital, public rallies where people name names. And people think, well, aren't you going to be fired? No, well, I didn't get fired because, that's our constitutional right, and that's what we told them when they called me in the office and complained about it. Well, why are you? It's my constitutional right. I'm not at work. I'm standing out on a public sidewalk, and I can say whatever I want. So that encouraged people where I work to start coming out and talking about it now. So now they feel comfortable coming to me and complaining. And so we're following through on those. And it's hard to get the unions also to follow through on things like that, because they kind of dismiss it all as personal, when it's not really personal. I mean, I know a worker who's an x-ray tech who worked at the hospital for years and years and years, who right now she's off, as Steve was talking about, on permanent disability. She's had 3 nervous breakdowns. Her health is totally gone from the stress of it. She has all these stomach problems, and it's all work-related. But when she went to court, they said it wasn't. So she's suffering, and other people in her department have complained too about the same thing. But until we start dealing with bullying management and bullying workers, and I think something that unions need to do, we need to admit that some of the bullies are our members, and we give them a pass to behave that way, and we have to stop doing that. So that's the issue of health that I want to talk about, that it affects people in so many ways, that, the depression that I see among city workers after the constant barrage of attacks. constantly having your salaries cut, people losing their homes and all this other stuff. There's a emotional and a health toll that's being taken on the employees. And now they want to come after our health care, right? Now they want to get rid of employee-only health care. And the justification for that, when we were in bargaining, that the city said was, well, we think all employees should have skin in the game, quote unquote. That's what they said, skin in the game. So we said, well, what exactly do you mean by that? Well, we feel like if you have skin in the game, then you'll be more cautious about how you use your health care, and there won't be as much waste. And, the whole room just, at that point, we were all sitting there stone-faced because we're in bargaining, but we all kind of lost it. That was outrageous that they would even say that you have to have skin in the game. In other words, they don't really want you to, they want to make it so expensive you never use it. Particularly for the higher paid workers, I would even say people in my category, it's probably okay, but the lower paid workers, they're the ones that they won't go to the doctor. They'll drop their kids from their health care because it's so expensive they won't be able to afford it. And that's really not fair, and it's really not right. And so our union has taken the stance that employee paid health care is something that's one of the things. If we have to strike, that's what we'll strike for. Because, we have to stop the constant take back. They took back up money from our pensions. It's like one thing after another, a constant barrage. And the workers have had it. We really have had it. And so what we need is more help from the government. We passed around the petition for a healthy workplace. I think it should become a city ordinance that all workers have a right to work in an environment where you are free from bullying and harassment, and not have it dependent on whether your manager likes you or not, to have some real protections. And right now, the system they have now, if you report it to your manager, if your manager doesn't feel like it's warranted, then it dies. It doesn't go anywhere. If your manager may not like the person that did it to you, maybe they'll act on it. But it's really not a fair system, and we need to make it a fairer system. So that's what I wanted to stress, that, a part of workers, our salaries is important, all that, but how we treat each other and how we are treated at work is something that's been kind of like under the rug, and nobody's really dealing with that fact. It doesn't matter how much money you give me an hour if I'm being harassed every day. I'm not going to be happy at work, and I'm not going to be the most productive I can be. And a lot of times what happens is it carries on to their people's home lives, the stress of it all. So I'm hoping that, this Memorial Day, that's something that we all start, raising our consciousness to, and raising the consciousness of the people around us, so that when you hear things like that and when you see things like that, you step in and stop it, which is what we're trying to get to. And that's the only way to stop it, is if we, as workers, step in and stop it. Okay. All right. Any questions?
When you have a situation like you were discussing, where maybe it's actually member versus member bullying, how does your union handle that in terms of representation?
Well, actually, our union has a policy, is like they won't go after one member for another member. So what I started doing because I'm the chapter president at San Francisco General, I started pulling the two employees in the room and telling them both, you need to stop it. And if they come after you and you continue this behavior, I'm not going to protect you. And I don't. They know how I feel about it. If you do that, I'm hands off. You can find somebody else to try to help you, but I'm not going to help you. So that's where I'm at right now with that. And then that way, a lot of people know I'm serious about it. And so, what they started doing now is when they come to me, when they think they might have gotten themselves in trouble, it's like, how do you think I should handle it? Yeah, it's almost like you have to guide people through it and teach them how to behave differently, because people need to learn how to behave difficult. That's why the training is so important about bullying and harassment, to make it the right kind of training, so you train people how not to behave that way. Because most people who are behaving that way don't realize that they're behaving that way. They're not doing it because they're evil people. That's just the environment they've been in, and it's been tolerated. There is definitely a case to be made that a lot of this would not even be a problem if we had universal health care.
It's a major issue, and this is a major, huge employer.
Right, and it's a major, huge employer, and it's happening all over the country at all these employers. They're all thinking the same way. I wonder if they all went to the same seminar or something, because they're all doing exactly the same thing, right? They're all doing exactly the same thing. A majority of the time, I don't think I can think of one where I know that they approved it. And if we can at least put a dent in it, I mean, you know, you're never going to be 100% on all of that. But if we can at least put a dent in it, then that, you know, then people's lives will be better. What we built into it was that there's going to be a committee with 3 union members. Hopefully I'm one of them. And 3 city people. We're going to come together and come up with this program. Now, it may not be we create it from the ground up. We may have to research what's out there already that works and bring it in and have the city incorporate that. And then it would get presented to the human resources, so, you know, protect themselves from lawsuits. And then it would be implemented and mandatory. Everybody would have to take it.